You know, when you're governing a province for the Roman Empire, control isn't just a nice to have, it's everything. It's an absolute necessity. So what happens when that control gets challenged? What happens when a province actually dares to rise up? Well, this is the story of how Rome answered that very question. And let me tell you, they answered it with overwhelming force.
In that question, right there, it gets to the very heart of Roman provincial policy. This wasn't just about military tactics. No, it was about sending a message that was designed to echo for generations, a message of absolute, unchallengeable power.
So let's set the scene. In ancient Judea, right after King Herod dies, the whole region just explodes into chaos. And the Roman response, well, it was led by the governor of Syria, and it would become this terrifying case study in what Roman justice really looked like.
All right, so let's get into it. A legion in peril. It all starts when our guy, Publius Quintilius Varus, the governor of Syria, is forced to act. See, he's back in his headquarters in Antioch when he gets these urgent letters, and the news is bad, really bad. The Roman legion he left behind to keep the peace in Judea, it's under siege, it's in grave danger. For a Roman governor, that's like the biggest alarm bell you can imagine. He has no choice. He has to act, and he has to act fast.
Now, this wasn't some simple, straightforward conflict. The whole situation was this complex, tangled web of loyalties. Of course, you've got the Romans, led by Varus, and their goal is simple: crush the revolt, restore order. But then you have their main allies, an Arab army under King Aretas. And get this, they're mostly motivated by a deep-seated hatred for Herod's old dynasty. That little detail, it's going to have some brutal consequences. And on the other side, it's not just one big rebel army. You've even got pro-Roman Judeans, guys like Joseph, Gratus, and Rufus, all trying to keep things from completely falling apart. It was just a messy, volatile situation.
Okay, the March of Vengeance. We're talking a path of destruction right across Galilee and Samaria. So let's be clear, Varus isn't just marching out to rescue a few soldiers. Oh no. He is mobilizing a full-scale, punitive expedition. This is all about reestablishing Roman authority in the most brutal and, well, visible way possible.
I mean, just look at the army he puts together. We're talking 2 Roman legions, 4 troops of horsemen, another 1,500 guys from Berytus, and on top of all that, a huge army from King Aretas. 2 full legions, that's something like 10,000 elite soldiers, plus all the cavalry and auxiliaries. Varus is bringing absolutely overwhelming power to the field. The message he's sending is crystal clear. Resistance is futile.
And the campaign kicks off in the north, in Galilee. First stop, the city of Sepphoris is burned and its people are enslaved. Varus sends his commander, Caius, in, and the response to the rebellion there is just immediate and horrific. They torch Sepphoris, a pretty major city, and sell its entire population into slavery. This wasn't just a battle. This was the first terrifying lesson in what Roman wrath looked like.
Then they move on to Samaria. The villages of Aurus and Sampar are plundered. As Varus marches his main army south, he basically lets his allies run wild. Remember King Aretas and his beef with Herod? Well, his Arab forces go and plunder the village of Aurus for pretty much no other reason than it belonged to a friend of Herod. Then they just move on to the next fortified village, Sampar, and do the exact same thing.
You know, the historian Josephus, who is our main source for all this, he paints a really devastating picture. He says, all was now full of fire and bloodshed, and nothing could resist the plunders of the Arabians. This wasn't some disciplined military operation. This was a wave of pure terror, and a lot of it was being carried out by Rome's pretty vengeful allies.
And finally, just before they get to Jerusalem, Varus himself makes it personal. The village of Emmaus is burned to the ground, and it's on his direct command. See, he's furious about an earlier ambush that killed some of his men, so he gives the order, burn it all down. The people who lived there, they were just left to run for their lives. At this point, it's not just policy anymore. This is straight-up vengeance. So now we get to Jerusalem's reckoning. The heart of the rebellion is about to face Roman justice. This massive army, which has let this trail of fire and slavery all the way from the north, finally arrives at the gates of Jerusalem, the epicenter of the whole revolt. The moment of reckoning is here.
And what happens next is just pure psychological warfare. At the mere sight of the Roman legions, the rebel camps that were surrounding the city just disperse and flee. These rebels who'd been besieging the Roman garrison, they take one look at Varus's legions lined up for battle, and the whole rebellion just evaporates. Poof! The armies scatter into the countryside because there is no way they can face that kind of organized military machine.
But just because they fled didn't mean they escaped. Oh no. Varus's judgment on the captured rebels was swift and absolute. He sent his troops sweeping through the countryside, rounding up anyone and everyone who was involved in the uprising. And for those who were caught, well, judgment wasn't going to be a trial or a court hearing. It was going to be imperial punishment.
So Varus's forces round up a huge number of people. And from this massive group of prisoners, he picks out the ones he considers the main instigators, the guiltiest of the guilty. And the number of men he selects for the ultimate punishment? It's a staggering number. 2,000. 2,000 men identified as the most guilty were crucified. And the method of punishment was absolutely key here: crucifixion. This wasn't just about killing them. It was a public spectacle, a show of agony and humiliation, a signature Roman tool designed to terrorize an entire population into submission. I mean, can you even imagine it? 2,000 crosses lining the roads into Jerusalem. It's this silent, gruesome warning to anyone who would ever dream of defying Rome.
Okay, so let's talk about the price of rebellion and how Varus went about stamping out the last embers of this revolt. With Jerusalem pacified and the main troublemakers executed, you might think Varus's job is done. But nope, he still has work to do. He can't leave until every last little ember of this rebellion is completely snuffed out.
Because even after everything that happened in Jerusalem, Varus gets word that there are 10,000 men still under arms down in Idumea. Just when he thinks he's done, he learns about this massive threat. 10,000 armed rebels still organized in the south? This could easily spark a whole new war.
So let's look at Varus's final moves, because he handles this masterfully. Step 1, he dismisses those uncontrollable Arab auxiliaries. He basically tells them, thanks but no thanks, because they were causing more chaos than they were worth. Step 2, he marches his disciplined legions toward Idumea. And step 3, before a battle can even start, he accepts the rebels' surrender. They just give up. Why? Because word is spread. They know what happened at Jerusalem. They know they have absolutely no chance. And here, you really see a core part of Roman strategy for controlling provinces, a calculated mix of mercy and brute force. Look at the fate of the rebels. For the multitude, the regular fighters, Varus forgives them. He just lets them go home. This is smart, right? It stops him from creating thousands of new, desperate enemies. But the captains, the leaders, they get sent in chains all the way to Rome to face the judgment of Caesar himself. It's a classic strategy. You cut the head off the snake while pacifying the body.
And once they get to Rome, Caesar Augustus delivers the final verdict. By his order, any rebel leaders who are also kinsmen of Herod are put to death. Now, this was a critical political message, and not just for Judea, but for all of Rome's client kingdoms. The message was that the ultimate crime wasn't just rebelling against Rome, it was waging war against a king from your own family who had been a loyal friend of Rome. It was a stark warning. Family ties will not protect you from Roman interests.
So now an order is restored. A brutal peace settles over Judea. With the last of the leadership eliminated, Varus's job is finally done. He's crushed the revolt, he's punished the guilty, and now he can re-establish Roman administration over this completely shattered province.
And the new status quo is pretty clear. The final steps are almost clinical. First, Varus settles all the remaining matters in Jerusalem. Second, and this is a big one, he leaves an entire Roman legion behind as a permanent garrison. This isn't temporary. This is to make sure this never happens again. And third, with his point made in the most violent way possible, he just returns to his headquarters in Antioch. Order, Roman style, is restored.
So Varus's campaign restored Roman order. But did this brutal peace only sow the seeds for a greater war to come? I mean, what's the takeaway here? Varus's campaign was a textbook example of Roman punishment. It was swift, it was brutal, and you know what? It was effective. It stamped out the fire of this one rebellion. But the question that just hangs over all of this history is a pretty powerful one. Does a peace that's won through this much terror and bloodshed ever really last? Or does it just fuel a deeper, simmering resentment, basically ensuring that an even bigger, more catastrophic war is now pretty much inevitable?